Hello and welcome to La Rosa Reads. I'm Denise La Rosa, and today I'm sharing my September reads with all of you. I read 7 books in September, the first one being All Fours by Miranda July. Lord have mercy. I had never read a Miranda July book. I saw Russell over at Ink and Paper Blog speak about this book, and he had some feelings and instincts about it that he was tussling with, yet it left me curious. His review left me curious. And then I had a couple of my colleagues slash friends read the book and say, Denise, you must read this book. Now, what I had in common with all of my friends is that we are all 40-something-year-old women, and this book centers the lived experience of a 40-something-year-old woman who is supposed to be doing a cross-country road trip for work and doesn't make it past 30 miles or so, and finds herself in this obscure little community, staying in this like cruddy motel, and ends up having, I don't even know if you'd call it an affair, but this wild ride of a fondness romance kind of thing with a young man who was much younger than her. I know it's sounding weird because it was something else. What ensues over the past, like over the next umpteen days, if you will, is this wild ride of a bond, a connection that our main character has with this young man who also happens to be a married man. She's a married woman, and the affair just takes this spin that is profound and bizarre all at once. That's the first part of the book. The second half of the book, or the second part, if you will, dives deeper into the hormonal, emotional vibes of it all, what it means to be a 40-something-year-old woman hormonally, being perimenopausal, and how that speaks to other aspects of your life, whether it's your career, whether it's your parenting, your marriage, and also your relationship with yourself, your mind, your body, and your spirit. That part, the second part of this book, is the part that I found to be, I don't even know if I want to say enjoyable as much as I would say thought-provoking. The beginning of it, I could have done without a lot of the details that were very cringy that was going on between our main character and the young man that she grew fond of. But that second part left me with more questions than answers, but also a sense of community, which the main character ends up reaching out to other 40-something-year-old women and also women who are older and younger to just learn more about what it means to be a woman in the world. I struggle giving this book a rating because I know my own moral compass is going to lead me to rate it low because of some of the cringy moments in the beginning. But when I think about this book, the all-encompassing aspects of it, from the skilled writing, from the character development, I would rate it higher, but I just can't even rate this book. I know it's longlisted for the Booker Prize, I believe, and I find that to be interesting. I definitely don't predict it's going to be on the short list or a winner, but you know, if you're a Miranda July fan, good for you. For me, will I read another Miranda July book? Probably not. And shifting gears from a strange read, if you will, to one that just swept me away, I read Rachel Joyce's The Music Shop. Rachel Joyce is responsible for one of my all-time favorite books, Miss Benson's Beetle, and she just continues to deliver for me as a reader, consumer of her work. In The Music Shop, we have this music shop that is quirky. It's in the 1980s, I believe 1987, 1988, and the music shop owner sells only vinyl. Now, if you can think back to that time, that was when vinyl was out and cassette tapes and CDs were in. So for him to refuse to house CDs and cassette tapes and to stay true and committed and dedicated to vinyl was not the smartest business decision, but an endearing one nonetheless. He had a very close relationship, a very symbolic relationship with music, thanks to his mother. He was raised by the single mother. It was just the two of them, and she was a music lover through and through. Very wise and all-knowing of the behind the scenes, the stories behind the music, which I connected with. I resonate with that because I'm one of those people as well who know a lot about the story behind the song. And so this is what has moved him about life. Music moves him. Music just really motivates him to exist and to be in community with other people. People go to him looking for a song or looking for music, but he can tell just by seeing that person, really seeing them, what song they really need. One day, a mysterious woman comes to this music shop. She faints and steals Frank's heart. So he and this woman connect through music. She wants to learn more about Frank's perspective on music. She's fascinated by his relationship with music. Unbeknownst to Frank, this mysterious woman has a rich and emotional past that really was the motivation for her finding Frank in his music shop. Their relationship continues to evolve. Frank has a wonderful found family in this little strip of town where his music shop resides. There are other businesses and business owners around his music shop, and they all have this beautiful familial relationship with one another. And so those relationships and Frank's relationship with this mysterious woman are really at the heart of this story. And of course, music is as well. I loved everything about this book. I felt the warm and fuzzy feelings, those emotional feelings that just have you smiling, maybe has a little tear streaming down your cheek. Rachel Joyce, you did it again. My September reading month was chugging along with The Neighbor Favor. This is my first Christina Forrest novel, and I'm super excited about it because this is book one in a series, and I think this is going to be a fun romance series for me. We have two writers that come together in the most magical way. So our main female character is an aspiring children's book author and editor. She is working at a nonfiction publishing house, and she's an editorial assistant. She's not loving her job, but she's seeing it as a means to an end. In the meantime, she loves this book, this fantasy book that centers Black characters in the fantasy genre. And she decides to go out on a whim and go to the contact me page of that author's website and send him a message. Well, he responds and sends her a message back. And they go back and forth without ever seeing each other, but learning so much about each other and connecting in the realest way. Fast forward some months later, actually a year and a half or so later, I believe about a year, and these two, their worlds collide, and they don't realize it. They don't realize who the other one is. And it just ends up evolving from there. I don't want to give you too much because it will be a spoiler if I do. What I will say is this was a slow burn, but a sweet burn nonetheless. I had fun with these characters. They were quirky, they were fun, there was some humor. I enjoyed the side characters as well. And I could so see this book becoming a series before really, I guess it wasn't before I knew it would be a series because I always did, but I just saw it, like the writing was on the wall, and I was like, oh my gosh, so smart. This author is so smart to write this book because there were some characters of the sister trio that I want to learn more about each one of the sisters. We spent time with the one sister in this book, but there are two more sisters that we need to spend time with in the future. The Diverse Spine of the Month was too soon for Adios in honor and celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. This was a book that wasn't on my TBR, but I'm a huge fan of the Diverse Spine's IG account, and I typically try my best to read their Spine of the Month every month, and I knew it was worth a try. I had a very sweet time with our main character. Our main character is a young woman who is a sous chef, an aspiring sous chef, and her stepfather passed away whenever she was very young. He was the only father she had ever known. Her mother ends up passing away of cancer, and so she is left with her two aunties who were her mom's best friends and have pretty much raised our main character from the very beginning. And she has an unsavory, no pun intended, experience at her restaurant where she's working. And it forces her to leave California. And at her mother's funeral, so if I back up before that decision, at her mother's funeral, she runs into this man who says, "I'm your biological father." He offers her the opportunity to move where he lives, and I'm thinking it's New Mexico. I'm a little fuzzy. She at first said, "Absolutely not. Like, who the heck are you? How dare you come to my life at a time such as this? And like, where have you been?" But because of that unsavory experience at the restaurant where she was employed and her situation, her financial situation, she really ends up thinking, "I have no other choice." And so off to her biological father's town she goes. At that town, we have yet another story of found family. I love books that are immersed in found family vibes. And the community is small, it's close, it's tight-knit, it's sweet, it's endearing, and it's rich in Hispanic heritage and roots. And that is something that she has missed all of her life. She does not speak fluent Spanish. She judges herself for that and feels like there's a part of herself, her heritage, that she has not tapped into, that she does not know. And so these characters, including a cute mayor, really help her rediscover herself, and it helps her heal from her mother's death. She ends up really in a messy way, which is to be expected, finding how her biological father will fit into her life. And it is a sweet story. It's a sweet book. I want more people to read it. I had a great time with Too Soon for Adios, and I feel like I had a great time with a lot of these books in September. And I read a middle grade novel, Finding Langston, and I tell you what, you guys, this is probably my favorite book that I read in September. We have a young boy named Langston who was from the South. His mother passes away of illness, and so it was at that moment where Langston's father decides there's nothing left for us here in the South. Son, let's move up north to Chicago and try to make a new life for ourselves and do better. So we're talking about the Great Migration. This is the 1940s. And so millions, I believe around 6 million Black families were part of the Great Migration. And I believe from the early 1900s up to 1970 or so. And so Langston's story really is inspired by that move. He's there, he loves words, he loves books, but his father is all about him becoming a man and learning how to do handiwork. And so he oftentimes will hide his love of books from his father. He's also not feeling like he fits in for obvious reasons. He still has that Southern accent. He's wearing his bib overalls. He doesn't have the right clothes or the right shoes. And so he gets teased, and he finds himself and he finds an escape in books, as so many of us book lovers do. There's also a woman, another tenant in the apartment complex or the apartment building where Langston and his father live, and she is around. She is a teacher and she loves books as well. He, being Langston, isn't too fond of her, but Daddy is. And long story short, I think Langston comes to really appreciate her and enjoy her as well. It was the most sweetest story I have read in such a long time. There are 2 more books in this series, and I definitely plan to read them real soon. The last 2 books I read in September are about books. That Librarian by Amanda Jones was a book for such a time as this. We're talking about a real true life librarian who has been slandered, degraded, demeaned, bullied, like just treated, like tormented, you guys, over this book banning nonsense that is going on in America. I listened to the audiobook, which was narrated by Amanda herself, and I just came to love it and love Amanda Jones so much. She sounds like one of those quintessential teachers. You can feel her love of books, her love of educating, her love of curating books, her love of being a librarian. You can feel it in every word. You can hear it in her voice. And she also so brilliantly, she's so witty and brilliant and fun and spicy all at once and sweet. And she just has a way of articulating what's happening with the book banning fiasco in a way that not only shares her feelings about it, but shares facts, you guys. Like, she breaks down the actual processes of librarians curating books, sometimes deciding to take books off the shelves. It's all about educating people. I feel like a lot of times these controversial issues stem from ignorance. And so she does a great job of educating her listeners or her readers while also giving us calls to action and resources to help fight against banning books. And I loved it. I loved her. I'm a huge fan. The last book I read for September is or was The Bookshop Sisterhood. This was a book I was most looking forward to reading, and it became the most disappointing book of this month and definitely one of the most disappointing books I've read this year. This book had the potential to be so amazing, right? You've got a group of friends, sister friends, if you will. So it's a bunch of girlfriends. Some of them have known each other since college. Others have known each other like since adulthood. And they all love books. They have a book club, and they decide to expand their dreams and expand their horizons from having a book club to owning a bookshop together. Each woman is dealing with her own challenge in life, whether it's her love life, her financial life, her child's health issues. There's so much going on with each woman, and actually that's the problem with this book. There is way too much going on. I read in a Goodreads review prior to opening this book up that this book had too much drama. It was like a soap opera on steroids. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, it can't be that bad, right? Like, it can't be that bad. And I love drama in books. I love it when there's like relational drama, friendship drama, romantic drama. But you guys, this was drama with a capital D, and it made no sense. So much was going on in such a short period of time. I'm talking like January, like Happy New Year, to like end of February, beginning of March. Enough happened in like 2 months that in reality would probably happen over the course of 10 years. This was so unrealistic, so much chaos. Like, there was a flipping character who won the lottery. There was a character who, like, I just, I don't want to give too much away, but if you've got a character who won the lottery, you got a character who went from being happily married to like divorcing her spouse like within 2 months. Like, are you kidding me? And I'm so disappointed. So this author, bless her heart, is an educator. I'm sure, I really hesitate to critique books and be too harsh, but I have to keep it real, right? I can support an author like their aspirations, but I don't have to be on board with the book. And this is one I just could not get on board with. I finished it because I felt like, you guys, like, I've invested in it. I've got to keep going because I've already started. And I was kind of curious as to how it would end because there were so many hot mess expresses going on. I wanted it to each one to be tied up with a bow. There was like a husband who had a gambling problem. And so one woman like loses everything. Another woman loses everything. A third woman out of like the four of them loses everything financially. Like, everybody's losing everything and everybody regains everything and they lose everything again. My head was spinning and I was shaking my head. And oh, one more thing. It's called the Bookshop Sisterhood. But books weren't really a part of the novel. It was maddening. There were these random, really forced shout outs to like real authors about real books. There was like name drops and title drops. Like, oh, I think I'm gonna read some Kennedy Ryan tonight. Oh, like I really enjoyed that book by so and so. Did you like it? But it didn't make sense through the thread of the story. So I've said enough. You can pretty much guess where I stand with this one. It was a no thank you. I do not recommend it. Just find another book about people who love books. Okay, there you have it, my love bugs. I hope you had a wonderful reading month in September. I really can't complain about this one. You know, there were some peaks and some valleys, but overall, a good time. Let me know what you were up to in September. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.